All right, so we just finished wrapping up 2 amazing weeks with Mr. Stephen Brunt on the waters in Southern Belize. We were fly fishing for permits, bonefish, and tarpon. They fished with Captain Dermin from Tobacco Key all the way down to the Placencia Flats. And today we're here to talk a little bit about Dermin, a little bit about Belize, a little bit about fly fishing, and what makes you keep coming back. Mr. Stephen, tell us a little bit more about how many times have you been to Belize?
Well, I was thinking about that today. I was trying to remember, but I think this our seventh trip to Belize.
Seven trip.
So twice up to Ambergris Key north of here,
Okay.
and twice in Punta Gorda south of here, and this is our third time in Placencia. But I don't think we're ever going anywhere but Placencia from now on.
Placencia has you locked.
Yeah, it's perfect for us. It's got everything, and the fishing's great, obviously. But it's a wonderful town, and yeah, we love it here.
So, why saltwater fly fishing?
Well, I did freshwater fly fishing from the time I was a kid, so I've been doing this my whole life back home in Canada. So I've trout fished and all that kind of stuff going way back, and I salmon fish and all of that. But I guess I started saltwater fishing about 15 years ago. Somebody invited me on a trip, on a bone fishing trip to Bahamas,
Okay.
and it's wintertime back home. So it's great to have something to do, in the winter to be able to get the fly rod out. It's very different. It's very challenging in a different way. I love it and loved it from the beginning. And I've been lucky. I've fished in Mexico and Bahamas a bit, and Little Cayman, and all a bunch of different places for saltwater fishing over the last 20 years or so.
So, you've done all around the Caribbean. So, why Placencia?
Well, there's a bunch of reasons. Obviously, as I said, I like the town. I like everything about this place. It's a very friendly town. It's a real town. It's not like just a tourist trap. It feels like a real place. I like culturally. I think it's really interesting. Belize, the mix of people you have here, and all the mix of different things that are going on. And from a fishing point of view, what I've found is that you have more options here than anywhere. Like the Bahamas has great bone fishing on the white sand, but that's pretty much it. Mexico things can be good, but you get weather and gets a lot of boats and it can be really crowded. But here you got a grand slam chance every day. A lot of more permit than I've ever seen anywhere,
Okay.
and just a lot of different kinds of water you can fish in different conditions, especially here at Placencia. Like this is different than south or north in that you can fish the keys, you can fish the shore, you can fish the reef. There's just so many different ways to approach it depending on what the conditions are. I love that part of it.
So, my thing is, what I really want to know is, how is it fly fishing with Captain Dermin on the waters?
Well, you probably know more about Captain Dermin than I do, I think. But just guessing. But he's great, and he knows he's great too. So I'm not shocking him. But yeah, I fished with a lot of different people. Different guides. I fished on my own as a kid, and I still fish on my own a lot back home. But I have fished with guides on saltwater all over the place, and they're all different, right? They have a different style. The guys in Florida are really aggressive, and the guys in Mexico are kind of the opposite. And it depends where you got to spend a day with people. So it's not just about the fishing; it's about the human relations part. And I will say this, and he's going to get a big head, so that's your problem. But
Yeah.
he's the best combination I've had of a guy who he's passionate about it.
Yeah.
Like he cares about your day and where you're going to go. He doesn't. I don't think we were in 6 days of fishing or 5 days of fishing. I don't think we repeated a spot.
Right.
Like
Right.
so, and he could just go back to the same place and do the same thing.
Right.
He never does that, right? And so he's passionate about it. He makes sure you have a good day. He's a really good teacher. And look, I still got lots to learn. I was out with a friend of mine this year who was more new to the sport.
Yeah.
He worked with him on his casting. He's patient. Got great eyes, but he's committed to the day.
Yeah.
So like I got my first grand slam on this trip.
Right.
He was
We're going to
more.
talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that.
we will. But I got to tell you, he was more excited than I was.
Right. Right.
And that's a great thing in a guide to have somebody who's passionate about what he does and has that knowledge and is a good guy to spend a day with. So yeah, he's right at the top of the list of the guides I fished with.
Awesome. Awesome. I'm happy to hear that. What was the most exciting fish you caught or the best fight you had?
Well, Yeah, I guess the most exciting one was the tail end of the Grand Slam, even though it wasn't the biggest fish at all, but it was completing that Grand Slam.
The for sure.
Yeah, we got the easy one last, the bonefish, but
Right.
that was kind of a lifetime achievement. I had a great scrap with the biggest permit I've ever hooked. We lost him right at the net,
I
so
heard about it.
don't have a picture, but I had him on for like half an hour, and
You did bring it up to the boat,
oh
right?
yeah, we got it to the
Right?
boat. It's a legal
Right?
catch as
We
far as
caught
I'm
it.
concerned. But we were out in the channel. We were bobbing up and down. There were a lot of waves. It was this side, that side, over, up and down. It was great. Had a great scrap with a really nice tarpon. So yeah, it's all really good, and and landed another permit. So landed one on the Grand Slam day, and had the one to the boat the next day. So two, and really, we could have, if things had broken our way a little differently, could have been two slams in a row.
Did you learn any new skill or techniques from the guide that improved your fishing?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I fished with Dermin last year, as you know, and I learned a lot that year. I would say even more this year.
Even more this year?
Yeah, little technical stuff, little tricks, you know, approaches in terms, of especially kind of once you get the fly in the water and how you manage it with the different fish, different stripping speeds, techniques. Yeah, I learned a ton of stuff. I wish I had his eyes.
Yeah?
I wish I could see everything he says. But he says, don't you see it over there? And it looks like
It's the close the glasses.
yeah, it must be. But like I can't see half of what he sees. But yeah, no, I learned a ton. I got lots to learn.
What was the biggest challenge you faced on this trip? Casting, reading the water, presenting the fly, etc.
I think uh, I think at this age, my balance isn't the greatest. So when we were bobbing up and down in the channel up at Tobacco Key, out in the waves coming off the reef, so the bow is going like
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
and you're kind of working in all dimensions and trying to cast and to see and hit, and then hooking a fish and trying
Right.
to play it on both sides of the boat with the boat going
the
up and down.
boat.
And Dermin saying, "Don't worry, you won't fall in." And I said, "Look, how do you know that? Because I entirely could fall in, and then you're going to have to come get me, dude." So yeah, I think that was pretty challenging. I blew a shot at a big tarpon up on the reef, which still bugs me. I should have, if one good cast, I would have had him.
Yeah.
But because it was dead flat calm, it was like you were snorkeling up there, and he just snuck up on us a bit. But yeah, there's always going to be the great thing about fishing is you always go home saying, there's one I didn't get.
Yeah,
Right?
it makes you come back.
It
You
makes
got to come back.
Yeah.
So, for people that do freshwater and learning about saltwater, what fly setup did you most effective work with during this trip?
Oh man. Well, we kind of fished the whole range. I brought down, I think, four rods and six lines, fishing everything from intermediate. We didn't fish the full sink in the end, but we fished everything from intermediate 9s and 10s right down to a 7 for bonefish. Yeah, we threw all kinds of different stuff, I guess. Big flies for tarpon, obviously. Sinking, dropping flies in deep water in certain cases for permit, or up on the surface for permit. Yeah, pretty much the whole range. I got to use everything I brought. Let's put it that way.
Those were like the bowers, the shrimp, the caddies.
All of the
All
above.
of the
Yeah.
above. All right. So bring all of them.
Yeah. Ask Dermin what if you ask him what should I bring, he'll tell you to bring everything, and
We do have that on our website at
do.
www.captainderminshippers.com. Plan your trip, and it lay out everything from tarpon to permits to bonefish, all what he uses in the saltwater, what he recommends, and you should be good to go once you go on that site.
Yeah, and you don't want to get down here and not have
Not
something,
bring them,
right?
yeah,
Like there's
right.
nothing worse than being out in the water and it said have you got a intermediate line? And said, no.
No.
Well, then you can kind of make do, but
Yeah,
right, but it's
right.
not. It's yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm learning. I added some stuff this year from last year, and at Dermin's suggestion, and again we used it all.
Awesome, awesome. If you could relive one day from this trip, what would it be?
Wow, it's got to be Grand Slam day, right?
How about that big 100-pound tarpon that
But
you missed?
I don't want to relive that one at all.
I heard about that one.
That's the
I
one.
heard about that one.
Yeah, I don't want to relive that one at all.
What happened with that one?
Well, I just a little stop start on the retrieve. Kind of, I was halfway in between, and yeah, that happens, right? He made a slash at it, and I was already retrieving it, and although as I mentioned to Dermin, and this is actually true, like it was towards the end of the day, and that was the day it blew up that day. At the end of the day, like big rain.
Yeah.
And I was beat too. Like it was a long
right,
day.
right.
And if I've hooked big tarpon before, we would have been out there for an hour at least on that
Just
fish.
pulling down that one.
Easy, yeah.
Wow.
And that rain would have been coming over our shoulder, and it would have been like, okay, what matters more here? So yeah, as much as I would have liked to have hooked it, than I
But
would
he
have.
did mention that that Grand Slam was your first one.
It was, yeah, it's my first slam.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, it was a
Awesome.
real thrill.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. What advice would you give someone considering a trip like this? Flight bookings, traveling. You're coming from Canada.
Yep.
How was it like traveling from Canada coming down to Belize?
It's pretty straightforward. You know, we know the drill these because we've been down here enough times. There are direct flights from Toronto to two different airlines fly to Belize City.
Okay.
I think there's a flight from Calgary too, a direct to
Yeah,
Belize City, or
there
you
is.
can go
Yeah.
through the states, but
Mhm.
it's easier not to.
Mhm.
Once you get to Belize City, there's a bunch of different options for how you come down here. You can fly down on a small plane. We've got a driver who picks us up at the airport in Belize City, who we've gotten to know. He's sitting there waiting for you when you get in. It's a 2.5 hour drive. You can stop for groceries if you're going to stay in a condo like we did here, and it's a very pleasant drive down.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, it's the customs is not the fastest getting into Belize, so
Right. Right.
you might stand in line for a little while
Right.
when you come in, but everybody's very nice, and no, it's really it's dead simple getting here. It's and once you're here, once you're in town, it's I would say make sure you line up a golf cart or some kind of transportation to get yourself around.
Yeah.
That's important, and do it well in advance, and then just explore the town. Like we've eaten incredibly well here. There's great restaurants in this town.
Mhm.
We've cooked as well, but there are amazing restaurants in Placencia. You could be here for 2 weeks and go to a different restaurant every
Right.
night, and they're all really good.
Different flavors,
Yeah.
different people. Yeah. Get to know the culture.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a, it's not, look, I'm not going to speak for anybody else's finances, but it's not, there are places in the Caribbean that are way more expensive than Belize.
Right.
So, it's a relative bargain in the world these days. So, yeah, it's great.
So my last question, Mr. Steven, is: would you recommend us?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would absolutely recommend for the fishing, right?
Yeah.
Like if talking about fishing,
Yeah.
yeah, like anybody comes down here, you can be a very experienced fly fisherman. You can be very experienced in saltwater. You can not have done saltwater at
Mhm.
all. You ideally you can cast a little bit, but even if you can't, I say Dermin's a really good teacher. It's a good place to start out, and there are things you can do here
Mhm.
early on. But it's after that, it's the sky's the limit in terms of the challenge and the availability in the water and everything else. But I think the other part is I travel with my family a lot when I go fishing. My wife has come with me on all these trips. Sometimes my kids come. One of my kids
Right.
was down here.
Mhm.
They don't all fish.
We missed them this trip.
Yeah, the boys weren't here
Mhm.
this year. My daughter was here a little bit
Mhm.
earlier, but the boys weren't here. They'll be back next year. So we're always looking for places where you can go with somebody who doesn't fish. So if you have a non-fishing partner or kids, where there's stuff to do and everybody be happy. And this place, you know, I like staying. Stay at a place like we're staying here, which is a really nice condo with a pool and there's the beach and all of that stuff.
Everything in one, all inclusive here.
Yeah, it's good,
Mhm.
right? But there's also, you can go for tours. The jungle's close by. The Mayan stuff's all here. You can, go into the caves. Like my kids have done all that stuff. The town there's lots to offer in the town. So you can go off for a fishing day and know that the people who you're with are still having a really good day.
So even though dad's having his dad's time in the water,
Yeah.
mom and the kids could still have something else
Yeah,
to do.
even when I was up on
Definitely.
Tobacco Key,
Yeah.
I knew everybody would be happy.
Yeah, we took 2, 3 days off from them.
Yeah,
And we went away and we knew that everything was all
they
right.
were fine, and
Right.
they got two,
Right.
3 days off
Mhm.
without me, which is probably good for them too. But yeah, no, it was that. So that's important because a lot of places you go for fly fishing or for any kind of fishing,
And they're kind of stuck
it's
there.
just for fishing,
Right,
right? And
right.
that's
So,
all you can do. Whereas
mhm.
here, there's a million
Different
things
stuff
you
to
can
do.
do. So
Right.
yeah, I highly recommend it for that reason as well.
Right. Well, thank you, Mr. Steven. It's always a pleasure to see you every year.
Well, it's great seeing you.
You're part of our family now.
Oh, I love that.
And thank you. Unfortunately, well, Captain, he has to be underwater.
Yes.
He's fly fishing again on the southern waters, and I'm here in land, so you had to stay with me today.
Well, it was a great pleasure. We've been getting to know each other, right? We were talking I think we talked to you the day after you had a baby
Right.
a couple of years ago, which
Right.
was pretty neat. You were right back on the job. I
Right
remember
back on
that.
it. He's always been underwater,
Yeah.
and I work in the office, working with our clients, making sure that everything's organized and all the reservations are in place, and for you just to have an easy time when you get here. So,
Well, you do a great job with that. I got to say, he gets all the glory out there as the
right,
fishing guy,
right.
but then he's got his name on the sign. But you do a great job, man. We never have to worry about everything. Everything's pretty precise. Your communication is great,
Thank you.
and we know when we show up here, everything's is ready to go. So yeah, thanks for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you for visiting us. Thank you for making Belize your #1 spot, and see you again next year.
Yeah, we'll see for sure.
All right. Thank you.